But planning your trips and planning your loads ahead of time can save you having any sort of issue before you even get to the yard. You can get things resolved before the problems even start to occur. Tip number 1, plan out your load before you get to the yard that you're loading in. Look at your paperwork, kind of decide where your vehicles are located in the yard so you can park real close to those vehicles. That way you can shorten your walking distance as much as possible. You're going to want to look at your paperwork before you start loading and figure out where your vehicles are going, what dealerships they're going to, especially if you have multiple stops. That way you can kind of plan ahead where you're going to put things before you ever get to the yard. Because you can tell by this load that I have here that I have 7 deliveries that I have to make. So I'm gonna wanna know which dealership I'm going to first, which dealership I'm going to last, which is also gonna tie into tip number 4. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I know where all these dealerships are because I've been to them many times. I don't have to look all this up on the map to know which dealerships I need to go to first, which dealerships I need to go to last. I've done these same dealerships hundreds of times in the past 10, 12 years. But you're gonna wanna look at your paperwork and know which dealerships you need to go to in the order you need to go to them, so you know in the order where you're going to load your vehicles. The other reason you wanna look at your paperwork before you ever get to the yard is you wanna decide where your tall and heavy vehicles, or what type of tall and heavy vehicles you're loading. That way, as you learn your equipment, you know where your big vehicles need to go, so you can kind of pick and choose the order that you want to load them in that aspect. So that way, you can load them the right way the first time and not cause yourself issues later on. Loading your vehicles in a specific order can save you a ton of time in the aspect of if you load your truck up, and you do it in the wrong order when you're dropping your decks down, and all of a sudden you have that one vehicle that's sitting there at 14 foot, 14.2. It sucks when you have to offload half your truck to reload that vehicle. Or if you're loading the vehicles, you get everything down to height, you get down the road, you hit that scale and realize that you're 1,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds over on one of your axles. You then have to offload, get rearranged so that way you're not running illegal. Or worst case scenario, you turn around and you hit that scale house and they either put you out of service or they write you a ticket. But planning your trips and planning your loads ahead of time can save you from those overweight tickets or having any sort of issue before you even get to the yard. You can get things resolved before the problems even start to occur. So number 2 is going to be start and create a pattern to how you load, how you unload, the way you walk around your truck, everything you do, from the way you take the straps off to the way you pull your ramps out to the way you move your decks. Create a pattern. By creating a pattern, you're going to save little bits of time, but they add up by the end of the week. It very well may sound trivial about creating this pattern, this way that you do everything out here, but these little patterns, these little, you can say 5 seconds here, 10 seconds here, 3 seconds there, they all start to add up throughout the week. Every time you can save a couple seconds, that turns into minutes. And every time you can save a couple minutes, that turns into hours. By the end of the week, by the end of the month, by the end of the year, those minutes and hours really add up. From something just as simple as when you get out of the truck, you have a pattern. You have a way that you walk down that truck, pull off every strap going down one side of the truck, coming up the other, pulling the ramps out when you get to the back of the truck, flipping your floppers over, setting your decks when you walk down the truck. Every little bit counts, especially when it comes down to just doing laps around the truck because you forgot this strap, you forgot your load bar over here, you forgot your gloves. If you always have a pattern and you always set your gloves and your load bars in the same spot based on the car that you're loading at, like for me, when I get out of the truck, I walk down the truck, pull off all my straps, flip my floppers, pull out my ramp. Then I walk to the other side, and my load bar, if I'm loading my head rack, is always on the head rack with my gloves. And when I get back to the trailer, same thing. I always have my gloves and my load bar together at the back corner of my trailer where my valve panel is. I always throw my straps in the exact same order as I walk up and down the truck. When I get the cars loaded, I load the cars the same way. I do everything exactly the same, load after load after load. By doing that, you've created a pattern that you can do things quickly without having to think about it. Also, by having that pattern, you don't ever forget anything that you're doing. You always know based on which car you have loaded, you know what your next step is. You know everything that you have to do left. You never forget to throw a strap. You never forget to tighten something down because you always do it in the same order every time. By keeping that pattern, it saves you time and it saves you from damaging these vehicles. Just everything you do it the same way every time you do it. It'll save you the time and money and mistakes. Number 3 is going to be make sure you keep your equipment in top working condition. You're gonna think that it's not that big of a deal, that it's not gonna save you that much time, but at the end of the day, keeping your equipment in top working condition can be some of the biggest time savings and money making things you can do out here. If every one of these ratchets take you about 30 seconds to spin, and you can cut that time down to 15 because they're in top working condition, they're greased up, they spin easily, you can do it by hand and you don't have to worry about grabbing the ratchet and unbinding them. That's gonna save you 25 minutes every time you load and unload this truck. If you're doing 3-4 loads a week, think about that. That's 50 seconds on, that's 50 minutes on a load. 3 loads a week, that's 150 minutes. By the end of the month, that is 600 minutes spent, or 10 hours just spinning your ratchets. So if you can keep them in top working condition, you can save a ton of time. Just keeping up with your equipment as a whole, whether it's the straps, whether it's your brakes, whether it's your ratchets, everything, you just keep up with it, that's gonna save you a ton of time at the end of the year. Or if you can save 10 hours a month just by keeping up with your ratchets, that's 120 hours of load time a year you're saving just by keeping up with your ratchets. Just taking the time to grease them and keep up with them. If you can save 120 hours a year, that is nearly 2 weeks of extra income just because you kept your ratchets lubed up so they didn't bind, and you can flip the floppers with your finger instead of having to get your load bar out and get that little bit of extra slack you need to get over the bigger tire from that small car you had on that spot earlier. All right, number 4 is going to be have a route and stick to it. Having a route can be one of the most profitable things you can do in this entire vlog that we're going to talk about. Having the ability to know the dealerships that you're going to, know where to park the cars and where to park your truck can be of the utmost importance, because like this dealership here that I'm at, this Nissan dealership, most people when they come here are going to park on the shoulder down here by the road. But what most people don't realize, you can pull in the front of the dealership, back or pull across the front of the dealership and then back in here, and then when you go to leave, you just turn right back out the front of the dealership. But if you didn't know this location, that's something you probably wouldn't know about. Knowing the person you need to speak to at the dealership can save you a ton of time, because we don't have to walk inside and wait for them to call someone to come inspect the vehicles, which we all know can take 10 or 15 minutes each time. So instead, you get to wave to the guy, holler at him quickly, let him know that you're here, that you're going to be done in about 15-20 minutes so he can come out, inspect the vehicles, or they start inspecting when they get here. It saves you a ton of time in the long run. Plus, knowing these dealerships and knowing where to park, it's going to keep you from pulling into the wrong side of a dealership and getting yourself stuck or in a pinch or in a bind someplace, or possibly damaging one of these cars because you're in a part of the parking lot that's not designed for you to be. The other thing is you may learn which dealerships to go to first. If you have a couple different deliveries that you have to make in a certain area, you may want to go to the furthest one down the road first, deliver there, and then start working your way back, because that puts you on the right side of the road to be on, instead of going to the closest dealership and then making a left-hand turn going down the road, getting to the next dealership and make a left-hand turn out of that one to go down the road. You may be able to go all the way to the very last one, then just make a series of right-hand turns in and out of dealerships, saving you time trying to get in and out of these places. All right, guys, so I'm going to show you my pro tip for unloading. Now, what I do, I get out of the truck, I grab my gloves and my load bar. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come over here and unstrap this side of car number 1, and I'm gonna pop these pins to keep these 2 cars from going up. Then I come back over here and I hit these straps, the straps on this car, and the straps on my back car. Then, after I get done doing that, I'm gonna come over to this side. I'm gonna hit my straps right here on my other 2 straps in this car. I'm gonna pull out both ramps and go up to my valve box right here. I'm gonna raise everything up and unstrap these next 2 cars, and as I'm unstrapping them, I'm gonna start lifting my pins up on my decks. Then I'm gonna go up to that front car, I'm gonna unstrap that one, and then start raising all of those cars up, the 2 back here, or if I only have 1, be the 1 back here, repin it, and then I can offload these bottom 3, drop this top deck down, unstrap from usually from this tire, I work around, come back up, come back over to here, and then I can start offloading all those cars. And then on the head rack, same thing, drop this car down, unload underneath, then drop this car down, offload, drop the next one down, offload, drop the top one down, offload. But that's my pattern for offloading or for unloading cars, to try to do it quickly and save time. So the thing is, by the end of the week, all of these little things that we've talked about today, they all start to add up. If you can save a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, every time you can save a little bit of time, by the end of the week, that's when it really starts to pay off. At the end of the month, you're talking possibly another load or 2 on every month. So it's not that these little things are, oh, nitpicky, blah, 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 oh, making fun type of thing. These are all little things that you need to concentrate on that will really start to add up, and it can really affect your paycheck. Think about it, not just by the end of the month, but by the end of the year. You turn around and get an extra 25, 30 loads on the year. That's all little things, little couple minutes here, 2 or 3 minutes there, the little simple things that people overlook and don't think about. They all begin to build up throughout the year. But guys, until next time, if you want to join United Road, you want to become a driver over here, hit me up in the links below. I'll get you over the information you need to come over here and be a member. But guys, until then, love you, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next bite.